All right, so thank you guys for singing tonight. It was awesome, kind of listening to you um, and getting to worship with you. It's encouraging for me. I know it's encouraging for the adults, and honestly, I think if I talk to some of you, it's encouraging for you to be able to hear each other and to encourage each other with that. We're in our third week of our series called Friending. The first week we talked about is friendship even important? And we ended up landing on the idea that yeah it is. Two are better than one. Three, we had the rope up here kind of talking about the idea of, all right, if you got three together, it's hard to kind of tear it apart. But one on its own can very easily get torn apart. How do I find friends? And we talked about the idea that we find friendship with Jesus, but Jesus actually calls us to make friendship with others. And so most of the time we get that reverse. We try to find friendship with others and hope that they can provide what we need. And then we want to make friendship with Jesus. We want to try to earn our friendship with Jesus in hopes that he can like us. But God says it's actually reversed. I want you to find friendship with me. You don't earn anything off of it. We kind of sang that with Reckless Love tonight, and even some with Living Hope, that God actually offers friendship to us in a relationship to where we just trust him, and he actually takes care of the rest on that side. And then because we have that friendship with God, we can then go out and make friendship with others or be good friends to others. Now, today we're going to talk about this. How do I find the right friends? And I don't know about you, but if you kind of look online and just look maybe for some opportunities to like, all right, how can I find some friends? What can I do? I ended up working some of this through with Noah, and Noah kind of put all the notes together, so you can give Noah a big hand for doing that. But he ended up sending some links in, and I ended up seeing a couple of them, copying them, and they were kind of funny. But these are apps that you can use to help find friends. So for some of you, you're kind of like, yes, I need an app for that. All right, so let's go through a couple of these apps. Here's one. It's called Nextdoor. This is how it's described. Want to get to know your neighbors more easily, but never seem to run into them? Nextdoor is the perfect alternative, which is kind of weird because basically we're going to tell you that you can stalk your neighbors and go from there. All right, it's a private social network for your neighborhood, allowing you to exchange information on the local community through the smartphone. It's ideal for making first contact with your new neighbors. So instead of actually going talking with your neighbors or knocking on their door or trying to go and see them, you can plug them through a social media app. All right. Plus, you can keep on top of local recommendations or classified ads. So Nextdoor. For some of you, you're like, this is what I need. All right. Let's go to the next one. I think this one's my favorite. No, maybe. All right. Bumble. Bumble might be the most famous for a dating app, but it offers more than just romance. How many of you are looking for more than just romance? Okay. Anyways, you can tweak some settings specifically to look for new friends in the same way you're looking for a date. It's ideal if you want new people, but not more romance. So that's just weird. Okay. Next one. This one's my favorite. Meet my dog.
Meet my dog.
All right, dog walkers know how easy it is to randomly talk to people while walking their pooch. But Meet My Dog just made it even simpler. So apparently we took something that's super easy and now have made it easier by downloading an app, looking at an app, and not talking to anyone else. All right, so you can easily use it to see what other dogs are in your area, chat with their owners, and even set up doggy dates for you and your hound. Aaron, you love this, right? This has been the missing piece on your life. If you just had this, it would all be perfect, right? All right, is there one more? All right, one more in this one. It's called Me3. And by the way, don't use any of these. Like your parents are going to kill me. We're like, what did they download? All right. Meeting one-on-one can be a little intimidating, so how about if were three of you? That's what I'm sorry. That's what the thinking behind Me3, which is gradually spreading from city to. I love how even the developers are like, it's gradually spreading from city to city. In other words, like we have 10 people that downloaded this in 10 different cities. Offering group chats with other users, the same gender. It's a smart algorithm pairs you with like-minded people, allowing you to get to know each other safely. So,
Are these on the App Store?
What's that?
Are these on the App Store?
No, John.
I'm sure some of these are. I kind of want to just find this one and like let's see if we can just get two of you to like I don't know, do this and then see if like we can like scare someone. Anyways, all right. So that's what the internet says about finding friends. There's also some awesome Urban Dictionary definitions for friendship. Here's one of them. Friends, cats. So cats would be the definition. Where's my friends? I mean cats. No? Nothing? All right, next one. Friends, the TV show which started a billion different hairstyle trends. Can I have the same hairstyle as that girl in Friends? Which one? I think she's called Rachel. No, I meant which style. So that's how you use friends in a conversation. All right, here's another one on how you use friends. I love this one. Somebody who comes to your house, eats all your food, Cheetos, Doritos, pizza, etc., and also uses your stuff with their Cheeto-dust hands. And here's how you would use it in a sentence. Hey man, what happened to all your snacks? Oh man, my friend came over. So if you're looking for a good definition of friends, this might be a good one. I feel like, Evan, is this kind of your life in a lot of ways?
Go to someone's house to eat all their food. No?
Anyway, we're going to keep going. Alright, here's the last one. Friends, what I thought I had. Nathan and Will were my best friends, but they stabbed me in the back. Alright, so sometimes that's the definition of a friend. Alright, so as we've been going through this, we've been just trying to get the idea of what are friends. And the question we're going to ask tonight, I got two kind of different questions that we're going to ask, but they both kind of relate to each other. Do I have the right friends? Do I have the right friends? And think about this. What is your answer? Think about it to yourself. What's your answer? Be honest with yourself. Do I have the right friends? I'm not talking about do you have any friends or do you have a couple of friends, but do I have the right friends? Because the truth is, friendship oftentimes is a progress. And last week we spent some time talking about this idea of how do I find friends? And so it's that whole idea of making friends instead of just trying to find friends. So let's slow down and see what God has to say about this. And the question that we have to think about is this one right here. How do I make the right friends? How do I make the right friends? Get your Bibles, open up to 1 Corinthians chapter 15. We're going to look at verse 33. It's a very short verse. If you don't have a Bible, go on to the back. We got them back there. Page 801. We're going to be talking about this. Page 801, if you don't have one of the Bibles, you can use one of ours. But 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33.
What's your favorite number?
My favorite number, probably 7.
Mine's 6.
6?
I don't like odds.
You don't like odds?
I'm very odd, but I don't like odds.
Oh, all right. Makes sense. So let me give you a little idea of what's going on even in this verse. This is just one verse, but Paul, who's a follower of Jesus, he is writing, it's kind of like the chief argument of Christianity. Why on earth would a person ever be a Christian? And in chapter 15 of the book of 1 Corinthians, Paul actually makes the argument as to why anyone would even remotely consider Christianity. And his whole argument centers around this. Jesus rose from the dead. Jesus rose from the dead. Now, there are some people who are struggling with this. There's some people, naturally, like if I just told you, hey, my best friend, he rose from the dead, you'd probably be like, really? I don't know about that. Like, that's not something that happens all the time. And so if this really did happen, if we really did see this happen, if there really was eyewitnesses, that would be a big deal, wouldn't it? It should be a big deal. And so as we look in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, he's going through this whole argument about Christianity. And there's some people who are just going, hey, well, you know what? Whether Jesus lived or whether he died, whether he rose again, I'm just going to kind of live for today. And they use a quote of the day. Let me actually read it. It's in verse 32, I believe it is. Let me look at it. It says, let's see here. Let's eat and drink, and tomorrow we die. It's like the motto of a lot of our society today, right? Live for today, right? YOLO.
Is that a bad
Thank you.
saying?
What?
Is YOLO a bad saying?
You only
It's
live
not
once.
bad, it's just...
I don't know if it's bad, but I think you can, but if you're living your life in such a way to where you only live once and you're just thinking, you know what, I'm just going to do whatever I want, and tomorrow, I die. Tomorrow, it's of no consequence. Tomorrow, really have to care. Paul starts to kind of combat this argument in the next verse. And he actually uses a quote from their culture to actually prove a point of what God wants them to know about Jesus and what God wants them to know about even relationships with each other. Look at verse 33. It says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Now that was a quote within their society. But he's trying to drill down to where the people of that day are being misled. They're thinking about stuff to where they're just like, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what friends I have. It doesn't really matter what I do. I mean, I'm just living for today. It doesn't really matter. And he even said, hey, listen, in your own culture you have a saying, bad company corrupts good character. The wrong company corrupts who you are deep down inside. This is the first thing I want you guys to think about, and we've said it already, but bad company brings out bad character. There are people in your lives that are going to try to mislead you. Or they may not intentionally do that, but you are in relationships with them and they are pulling you away from who maybe God has called you to be or who you should be. And this isn't an if it happens, it's when it happens. Because bad company corrupts good character. You know, what happens on the inside, that's what flows out. How many of you guys have ever seen a picture or a real life flamingo? Anybody? Ever? Flamingo? All right. I was reading actually a little bit today on the Smithsonian Magazine website where they do like the in-depth articles on it's like Smithsonian's version of National Geographic. I don't even know. But they were talking a little bit about flamingos. That pink hue that they have actually comes from, I think it's called brill shrimp. So they have a high concentration of the pink shrimp in their diet. And the more shrimp they eat, the actual more vibrant the pink actually comes out on their feathers. And when they start to back off of that, their feathers go back to just kind of a plain white. So you ever see like a flamingo and they're like vibrantly pink, and then other ones are just kind of like slightly pink, and then there's some that are almost albino, like kind of just white. Most of that is caused by their diet. The steady diet that they have that they bring in actually causes the color of who they are to change. And when we think about that, maybe even in our own lives, the people with a character that is maybe encouraging us to not be good, people that are pushing us down a path to maybe do the wrong thing, people pushing us down the path to being selfish, people pushing us down the path to not caring for others, the people pushing us down a path to where it's just all about us or even all about them. What that starts to do is it starts to bring something out of you over time to where you're even going to start to change. So even if you would think of yourself as a good person, even if you would say, I'm a follower of Jesus and I really love Jesus, if we have circles of friends who have influence over us to where they are the primary influencers in our life, guess what we will start to reflect? Charlie?
I have a question. If flamingos ate something like, I don't know, a blue fish, would they turn blue?
That's a great question, one to which I don't have the answer, but maybe during group time you can Google it.
Go, Charlie.
Group time, figure that out and let me know, all right? Let's see, let's do a science project. All right. Now, here's the thing. These are some signs that you might be surrounded by bad company, all right? The person that you're with, they reject you for not being cool enough. Or there's always that tension. They make you anxious around them. They reject you for being honest. They never go out of their way to ask how you're doing. That's a big one. You ever spent time with people and all they can do is talk about themselves?
Yeah.
Now, they might not necessarily be bad people, but they're not going to be drawing out of you good character assessment. They only ask you for your help when when they're desperate. They're peer pressuring you, obviously, to do the wrong thing a lot of times. talent or your ability to make themselves look better, they push you away from Jesus. So let me ask you guys, is this the life that you would want to live? Would you want to be surrounded by friends or the primary influencers in your life? Do you guys know what I mean by that? Like, you can have friends, and then you have people who influence you. Like the really, really good friends. Who's going to have the most impact? A person like this? See, bad company is not necessarily about appearance, but it's about character. And the character of a person tends to start to show over time. And if you see the character of the person, you know, I can remember in college, one of the guys that I hung out with, he was very grungy, tattoos all over the place, suspenders sometimes, looked like a lumberjack that was like all tatted up, just scraggly. Now, you look at him and you're like, that's a person of bad character, just on appearance, right? Like, our society has some standards sometimes where when you look at a person, you're going to be like, you know, I don't know. He was one of the greatest guys to hang around with, and he, in college, would constantly try to push you towards Jesus. I also had another guy in college that was in my dorm. When you're talking like perfect looks, perfect everything, this was him. And you can look at him and go, holy cow, like this guy, he's got it all together. And then you spend some time with him, and he would almost check everyone on this list. And so it's not about a person's appearance, but it's about their character. And so as we think about that, should we be people? Should you guys, as teenagers, surround yourself with bad company? And maybe instead of surrounding yourself with people who are bad company that push you towards bad character, maybe we should surround ourselves with people who are good company. This is the second point. Good company brings out good character. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20, it says this. Walk with the wise and the unwise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. You know, as a follower of Jesus, one of the things that we're encouraged to do is to pray. Now, how many of you guys have ever found it difficult, if you would say, yeah, I'm a follower of Jesus, and I know I'm supposed to pray, but how many of you guys have ever found it difficult to pray? So let me see hands. Any of you ever found it difficult to pray? Okay, so that's me. Like, I'm the youth pastor, and sometimes I find it very difficult to pray. So you know how I worked on that? I didn't just lock myself in a room and like, all right, I'm going to pray more in here. Like that can work sometimes, but sometimes like even just doing that was even harder. You know what I did? I went and found a couple people that were really good at praying, and I just hung out with them. And when they were praying, I'm like, hey, can I join you? There's a couple of pastors in this area that actually have like prayer meetings, and they like just get together as pastors to pray. That's very hard for me, but guess what I find I can do more often when I'm hanging around with them? Pray. And see, I think that is true in our life, that when we surround ourselves with wise people, when we surround ourselves with people of good character, over time, guess what starts to bleed off on us? You guys have seen this in your schools. Like, you ever see the student who's they're a good kid, and then they start hanging around with this group, and they're not quite a good kid anymore. Or you see the kid, honestly, that isn't that great, and then they start hanging around with people who are encouragers, hanging around with people with good character, and what do you find? They start to change over time. See, the people we hang around influence us so much. And so, who are the primary influences in your life? C.S. Lewis has this quote. He says, the next best thing to being wise, or to being wise oneself, is to live in a circle of those who are. So, the next best thing to actually being wise in and of yourself is just to be around people who are. So, who do you spend your time with most? This doesn't mean that you can't hang out with people who maybe aren't that great. You know, I even have friends right now who, you know, like sometimes it's a little difficult. But I don't let them move into the spots where they are the primary influencers in my life. And what are you guys doing right now with your relationships? Are you being a good influence? Are you being a person of good character? Are you being a person that says, you know what, I care about the person who I'm interacting with so much that I don't want to just find friendship with them, I want to make friendship with them. I want to actually love them and care for them the best that I can. Or is it just about taking? Here's a list of what it would look like when you're around good company. They're willing to listen to your needs. They're broken too. See, that's a big one. When you find somebody that's willing to acknowledge that they're broken too and that they can actually interact with you, that's huge. And they tell you when something isn't right. They tell you, or they're willing to walk with you in the good times. They're willing to walk with you in the bad times. And they push you towards Jesus. They're more concerned. They're even willing to tell you, and we'll talk about this some next week, but they're even willing to tell you hard things because they actually care about you. You have a friend who's willing to say, I love you so much, but I'm concerned for you in this area. And you're like, I cannot believe you just said that. You know what you should be saying in your mind? You might be the best friend that I've ever had. Because that person is actually more concerned about you than they are even about the relationship and whether or not you like that. And so as we kind of wrap this up, here's the point that I want to kind of leave you with. The right people will point you right back to the cross. The right people will point you right back to the cross. You know, you should be hanging around people that maybe don't have great character. But they should not be the influencers in your life. You should be the influencer in that relationship. And if you become the influencee, that's a sign in that moment that you may need to step back. You may need to set some healthy boundaries. Because the people who actually care about you will point you towards what's best for you. And what Paul is making the argument in 1 Corinthians 15 is that Jesus is actually what's best for you. If Jesus actually died on the cross for your sins, and he actually rose from the dead, and it actually happened in human history, then that changes everything. Even the way we interact with each other. And so as we kind of finish up, as we send you guys off to your group, what are you searching for in friendships? Are you just looking for the